Okay, we're now recording.
Okay, perfect. This is the Special Finance Committee meeting dated June 2nd. I'm calling the meeting to order at 4:05. The roll call, do we have Dr. Jones present?
I'm here.
We have Joe Franco present.
I'm here.
Perfect, there you are. Do we have Biggie Schircher present?
Yes, present.
Okay, perfect. We have therefore a full quorum. We also have Ryan Griffin present from ECCET, who will assist us with any questions and budgeting if need be. A couple of lead-in comments. Well, this is definitely a very difficult time, and especially of uncertainty. Let me personally say that nobody is in favor of cuts, especially because lives of people are affected by it, our teachers, our community. So this is awkward, and this is painful. And I would just encourage everybody within the community to treat this with the utmost respect and civility. With that, just as a couple of lead-in comments, another lead-in comment is I think we have made some additional progress on the admin team on the budget. I'm curious to see how this all is progressing. I would like to remind that the Finance Committee, that under my chair, it is our role to validate and scrutinize the assumption of the admin team, and to, at the end of the day, issue a recommendation to the board, which then ultimately will decide which way to go on the budget. It is important that we reach a consensus as we need to issue contract to our teachers. They are in limbo as it relates to a contractual situation, and we need to find a resolution quickly. And so I encourage everybody to be precise, to the point, with the utmost civility and compassion. With that, I think we're going into public comment. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are.
Oh no, we have to approve the agenda.
Public comment.
Yeah, are we approving the first public comment or agenda as presented?
I'm sure agenda is presented as first.
Right. Okay. Do I have a move? Do I have a
public comment is first.
I'm sorry?
Okay, then public comment is first. So let the
public comment is first.
Okay.
So again, I'd like to remind the public that we have 2 sessions of public comment. Please be mindful of your time. Everybody should speak, and please, we don't want to cut anybody off, but you, in general, you have 3 minutes. Biggie, can you also just take a little bit of a time for each and individual comment? Yeah. Okay, with that.
You know what, Frank, if Biggie's writing and taking notes for the minutes, I can take time.
Okay, perfect, Joe. Yeah. Okay, public comment. With that, we're going into public comment. Casey?
So to sign up for public comment, you're going to use the raise hand function. And for anyone who is new to Zoom, down at the bottom of your screen, you'll click on participants. And then a box will pop up to your right. And at the bottom of that box, you'll see the raise hand button. So you click on that. And then I will call on you when I see your hand so that you can share. Carla?
Hi, thank you. So hello everyone, I'm Carla Zerberg. I'm I'm a parent of a 2nd grader and an incoming kindergartner in the fall. I'm also part of the Student Site Council, and I'm a current chair of the Jogathon Committee. I would like to ask you to keep in mind during the finance meeting today that our teachers are the gems of our school. And although we could balance the budget by simply taking an additional percentage of their salary, more than already planned, we are looking in the wrong place. Coach Washington knows every student by first and last name. He greets everyone with love, encourages all of us to do better, and goes beyond his responsibilities. Always willing to help us fundraise, like showing up at 6:45 in the morning to help Jogathon Committee set up. Frau O'Neill will take her personal free time to help families that need additional help. Ms. Reeg's virtual classes are amazing. She's even shown up to class as Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus to keep our children engaged. Frau Kasai today took the time to talk to our children about what is going on in the world and checked in with their hearts. Frau Wolfram, Frau Paul, and Frau Schmidt show up after school for the Student Side Council every month to make this school better for our children, to look at statistics and make a plan to change them for the better. And then there's Ms. Cheatham, who continues to bridge the gap for her students, providing them with music by incorporating it throughout her curriculum. And these are just a few examples of our amazing teachers. Our teachers make Goethe what it is, and our few teacher assistants maintain the safety of our school, assist where they can, and are always willing to step up when needed. A board member recently said in a meeting that the top will take cuts when needed when they are unavoidable in a company. Not only does this move show leadership, showing that they believe in this organization and that the salary cuts will be temporary in the time of need, but it also makes financial sense. Our teachers already earn less than the average LAUSD teacher. I urge you to please consider our most valuable assets, our teachers, when considering further cuts to balance the budget. Thank you.
Kathy? Kathy, you're still muted.
Got it. My name's Kathy Cheatham. I'm a teacher at the school. I'm going to talk fast because I'm good at doing that. My 2 cents on a few things that are been talked about. First of all, thank you for coming here for the budget. It's super important. And as we know, there's been a lot of talk about this and how the school will survive through all of this. I've had an interesting couple weeks because I've been driving my car to different families' houses with library books, and I've been getting some interesting responses from parents when it comes to giving money. A lot of parents were saying they would give more money if they knew where it was going. So rather than just saying, here's a check for $200, if they knew it was $200 that was going to buy a Chromebook, or if they knew that this was money to help finance the water or to have more IAs or field trips. Parents said they are more willing to give money when they see exactly where it's going. I thought that was interesting. Bringing all external contracts in-house. There's been talk of the teachers making up for the MYP, the middle school enrichment programs. Personally, I have taught middle school journalism. I'm qualified to teach percussion ensemble. I'm just one person. Bringing contracts in the house will also make it so there's a teacher who loves the school and wants to see the school thrive, and they're invested in it. On the same aspect, bringing all contracts in house, every single teacher, in order to become a teacher, we take child psychology. We take all these trainings. We are good with kids. So as much as I love having our contractors coming in and helping us, at this time, I would rather see just the credentialed teachers. Let's try to keep this school strong and trust us that we will take care of the kids. When it comes to specials, we're talking about specials teachers, and we know what we gain from special teachers. We know that. Let me tell you what we lose if we don't bring the specials teachers. For myself personally in first grade, by not having specials teachers, I will keep trying to talk. Joe, I know you're watching me.
You're okay. 40 seconds, go for it.
Okay. What it's taking away over 100 minutes of prep time from my weekly schedule. It is taking, and then I have to now prep for art. I have to prep a PE lesson. So I have to take more time, prep a lesson, and then I have to take more time and teach the lesson. That is minutes that I'm losing from preparing my ELA lessons and my math lessons. It's also taking away time from me helping with other school activities such as the talent show, Lantern Festival, yearbook, all these things that the teachers do above and beyond. It's just putting more on us by taking away our specials teachers and that extra time we have for prep and the time that we need to create the PE lessons, math lessons, and Spanish lessons. And I think I made it, Joe.
Yeah, that's 3 minutes exactly.
Okay.
Maya?
Hello, everyone. I've spoken a lot in these meetings before defending the position of IAs, and while I still feel very strongly about keeping full-time IAs, I want to reiterate that I also feel strongly about keeping part-time IAs. I think even in first grade, IAs are very helpful and necessary. They help aid in the instruction of students by tending to their social emotional needs and any other emergency that could pop up. I've spoken a lot about that. I still feel strongly about that, but I want to focus also on something else that could come up today, which is staff pay cuts. I can only speak as a classified employee, but, and I'm an IA, by the way, hello. I'm the TK and KCIA. So I can tell you personally that what IAs make right now at Goethe is already not enough for us to live in LA. The only reason that I was able to do so is because I was living with people who made significantly more money than me, and they were willing to pay a larger percentage of the rent. And this is still with me working full-time at Goethe. I chose to work here because I loved the school, and I love the community that they have, and I speak German, and I thought that was great. But I just want to put it out there that and I know that it's on the table today, reducing staff pay, but I just want to put perspective out that for classified staff specifically, if we already are not making enough money to sustain us, if you reduce that even more, it could be potentially very difficult to retain classified staff because it's just simply not sustainable for us. So that's my piece. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll
Heidi?
give everyone like a 30-second warning.
Heidi, go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Carla, Catherine, and Maya for actually speaking so well. I came here because I know I was on the board meeting, whenever it was. Time has no factor now. And one of the board members mentioned PE and said, how can we spend $55,000 when we can just get it for free for some kid, somewhere to come and do PE? PE's easy, not a big deal. And that definitely triggered me and affected me. And I was flabbergasted, not just because Coach Washington is phenomenal. He knows every child, he knows every parent. He was cleaning up downtown Los Angeles after some protests going on. He's a phenomenal person. We can all agree with that. But as a nurse, PE is instrumental to the physical health of our children. And it's not easy to teach. He has 25 to 50 kids at a time. He's by himself. Not everyone can do that. I had to sub a PE class at my work for 30 minutes with like 12 kids, older, able to follow direction, and it was very difficult, even though I've been a personal trainer. It was horrible. It's not an easy job. It's not something that can go to someone for free. It's not something that we should not care about and give weight towards. So I really want to come here because I know that the board challenged the finance committee to focus on like five things to look at. And I want to really challenge you guys to realize that we need a good PE teacher, and we have a phenomenal one who's truly part of our core. I just wanted to make sure that was said.
Thank you.
And there are no other hands raised for public comment at this time.
Well, thank you for the public comment. I have also received a couple of emails, which I just want to acknowledge from other parents. I'm not going to go in by names, but they are along those lines, which has just been issued in the public comments. And they're all acknowledged and are making it into decision-making process or the recommendation-making process. I just want to acknowledge that I have received these emails. With that, I want to go over to item number 2. It is. I don't have the agenda in front of me. I apologize. It is approving the. Do I have a motion?
Number 3, approval of agenda as presented.
Do I have a motion?
I move.
I second. Do you move? I second. Yeah. So I do make the roll call. Dr. Jones,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Biggie,
Aye.
Frank, aye. So agenda is presented.
Number 4, approval of meeting minutes from 5:27.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Then I'll make the Dr. Jones. I'll start with you.
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Biggie,
Aye.
and I abstain because I haven't had the chance to read them, so I apologize. What is the next agenda item?
Next agenda item is discussion of preliminary budget.
Can you repeat it? You were breaking up a little bit.
Next is 2020-2021 preliminary budget discussion.
So with that, I'm gonna, again, my lead in language, my lead in commentary is we take this seriously, we take this compassionately, we take this within the parameters of the Goethe program in our caring community. This is not an easy task, and I'm leaning towards the expert giving us some guidance on the subject matter. And with that, I'm handing it over to Dr. Jones to report back on his progress he has done with his team. Dr. Jones.
Thank you, Frank. I'll be presenting some adjustments that we've made and kind of explaining the philosophy behind it. I do want to share this as a joint thinking that came from the administrative team in response to what the board requested of us on Friday night, which was we had approved, we had looked at option 1 and option 2, and we had approved option 2, which left a gap in the budget. There was agreement from the board to use option 2, but they wanted to get a better balanced budget than what option 1 provided. And as I shared at the board meeting, there were some things in option 1 that were questionable whether we could get savings out of. And one of those I mentioned was the Spanish program that was listed because we weren't sure how we would actually make that work within a master schedule and to get the savings out of that without a full elimination of a position, which we needed portions of the position. So the what we have been working on is what we're going to call option 3. But before I dive into that, I want to put a little perspective on what we're talking about here. A year ago, in July, almost a year ago, I started out here as executive director. And in that time, the administrative team was faced with a budget that had a $400,000 deficit, 401. We've been working throughout the year and within the new budget that we were proposing to break that down to a break-even budget. So that's 400,000 from where we started that we've already moved to solving. Unfortunately, the state cut 10% on our income, or as the governor's proposal is that. It hasn't been approved yet at the legislature, but that's our full expectation. As such, we identified almost $500,000, $477,000 of deficit from the budget we had initially presented. What we're going to present tonight under option 3 provides a painful but doable proposal that now brings us even again. So that's 400,000 plus another 500,000. It's almost $900,000 that we are improving our budget from where we stood at this point last year. So let's not forget how far we've come as we are trying to get over the hump of the last decisions to make a budget that's acceptable. I absolutely echo, Frank, what you said about we need to do this with compassion and understanding and a realization none of this is easy. So with that, I'd like to share my screen, and I'm going to talk through. Oh, Casey, will you?
Yes, it's enabled.
Thank you. I'd like to spend some time talking about the spreadsheet that is now updated. And I want to talk about the format so people can understand what we're talking about here. This is a reworked spreadsheet, an updated spreadsheet from what I shared last time at this meeting and what I shared with the board. If you'll notice in column A, there's asterisks. Those asterisks represent things that our board members asked us to look at. And in some cases, they were direct things that said, look at this particular thing. And in some cases, it was look at operations one more time. And so those are listed over there. You can see them as we go down this, and we'll go down line by line as we have before. I'm going to focus, though, on the changes. Note that we changed the order so that they're kind of grouped together and we can talk through the sheet without jumping back and forth, or less so. So I think that'll be helpful to people. I also want to note that there are some updates in the amount of money, the amount of savings that is listed. And that's because all of those were estimates, and we've triangulated in more on several of them. They are not things that are easily grabbed because they might involve furloughs, which involve less days, or percentage cuts, which you have to determine a percentage cut of how many people and from where. So there's a lot of intricacies to getting these numbers. We've been working through those, and I thank Brian in particular for helping us get to those numbers. So there are improved numbers here. We mentioned at the board meeting that we knew in group that we had a little better situation, but I think this will give you a better idea of where things are at. So the first section I want to talk about are these first 8 or 9 lines that are about either furloughs or cuts that are across the board or to administration in particular. And I noted Carla had mentioned in what she talked about at the beginning that it's important to for administrators to take the lead on this. And I agree with that and have put that in from the beginning, that we have tried to take on a larger percentage or a larger number of furlough days or whatever that is than everyone else has done. And the top line number 3, is unchanged in terms of doing a 2-week or a 10-day furlough for all staff. That includes administration as well on this line. But please note, this line used to say $110,000 our estimate. This is the one that was very, we gained some ground on, which is good. This is money to the good. We were able to save $138,500 on this. So we put that number in there. So we're looking at a better number there. Moving down, we also were asked by the board to look at, is there a way to shift around and look at furloughs for administration, which are larger numbers than just the 10 days that are listed. And so we came up with, we looked at what did it look like if the ED had 20 days total instead of 10, or what if the ED had 25 days total instead of 10. And we looked at what if the rest of the staff, the admin team had 15 days or 20 days. We looked at the larger amount which was with the ED at a 25 days of furloughs, and the rest of the administrative team at 20 days of furloughs, we were able to save 25.6, and we actually put that into option 3. So as I mentioned, option 3, I collapsed the other two so we wouldn't get confused on which numbers we're looking at. So you'll notice that we go from column C to column G. Those are the collapsed previous options, but we have those if we needed to look at them. Previously, we had looked at across the board pay cuts at 5%. Well, what would that be for 5% for everybody, but 10% for administration? And we came up with a number that was actually that was a 149. We calculated it out one more time, and it was 149.5, little to the better. But that was not one we recommended with option 3. We were also asked by the board to look at what if we made larger cuts that I think was referenced in the public comment earlier. What if we made larger cuts to both staff and administration? So we looked at what would that be? 7.5% for teachers and classified and 15% for administrators. We would save $224,200, a huge amount of money. We also wrote that down as really unrealistic, and most specifically with classified teachers, but for everybody, that this was a huge amount to cut across the board. And we did not include that in option 3. Similarly, in line 7, we had previously looked at health benefits, which was not, cutting that was not suggested by the staff. And we also looked at what were across the board pay cuts for administration only. We had a 30,000 cost. I think we'd initially had that at 25, and we were able to recalculate that more accurately. But we did not. We chose to put the furloughs in the option 3. And then there was also a question from the board that came in about unpaid holidays. Is there a way that we could save some money by doing that? We can't save any money with that, so we put 0. We could make furlough days, possibly 2 of the furlough days could be like at the opening week of school and not have teachers have as much opening time for school. That would save 2 days that affects the academic calendar, but it doesn't affect the money. So we didn't put that in here, but it's something we could consider with regard to if we had furlough days, we could make maybe 2 of those days at the beginning of the year, but that can be determined later. So unpaid holidays, we didn't save any money with. All of those in these upper areas, the 138.5 and 25,600, we thought combined, that's that within this group, those were the 2 that were suggested for option 3. So I'm going to stop there and ask our committee, are there any questions about this group of suggested savings?
Joe?
So for the furloughs for admin, would you just imagine just kind of like rotating days off, like Dr. Jones gets a day off, principal gets a day off, vice principal, kind of rotating?
Yes, for the
Random
additional
days
days
off,
beyond
yeah.
the 10. So assuming
Okay.
we had 2 weeks, which wouldn't be together, by the way,
Mhm.
we would be separating those out. We don't think it's feasible at all to do 2 weeks together.
Mhm.
But we would, those times, likely that administrators would also be off on those 10 days. But then in my case, it would be 15 other days that have to be figured out. And we would figure it out on a rotating basis. I want to keep in mind, this is true loss of service.
Mhm.
Is it me or are you breaking up? Is it everybody?
Oh, sorry. This would be true loss of service.
Mhm.
But we would work it out so that the other administrators are covering, and that there would be, emergency, always somebody there for emergencies or anything like that. But this is less time that is available to serve, and there are a lot of things that are being cut away that are going to naturally fall onto administrative shoulders. So just keeping that in mind. But we did put this down as the suggestion. Did that answer your question, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, I was just asking maybe rotating days, and then the reduction of health benefits. Obviously, we don't want to do that, but I was thinking maybe we could get something more competitive. What do we pay every month in health benefits? Is it just a flat allowance?
So in terms of, I'm going to turn this over to Biggie, but in terms of money savings, we wouldn't be able to save money on the budget here on this line item unless we reduce the amount we are providing to staff. And that was the thing that staff said they don't want a part of when we did question them about that. But I think what you're referring to is, could we get better service for staff with whatever program we get involved with? Is
like
correct?
a better, more competitive benefits provider, so they could have all those benefits, but we could get it at a better cost. We don't take benefits away, just get it at a better cost. So what are the benefits provided? Is it just a flat allowance?
So Biggie, I'll let you fill in on this.
Yes, so each teacher gets a flat allowance per month, and we are part of a bigger plan that has multiple health insurance providers that the teachers can choose from. They have MO and PPO plans and different types of deductibles, and they have a health plan, a vision plan, a dental plan. So each teacher can basically put together the plan as it fits best his or her needs, or also family needs. So there's also the option that they can put in for spouses
Dependents,
or dependents. However, there's a flat allowance, like you said. If a teacher chooses a program or a plan that is more expensive, then that gets a payroll deduction for the teacher. So each teacher per payroll, depending on what the plan actually costs. And we have been investigating about other options every year before we sign the contract with the company we are with. And since the school exists, the plan that we have has been the best one. And it's the best benefits. It's a combination of many, many charter schools that have all the same needs that we have. So we have done the due diligence. If there was still a better plan out there, we would have to wait until the next time frame where we can change
open enrollment or whatever.
Which is the calendar year is also the insurance year. So basically we're halfway through right now. Next open enrollment is around end of October, and we would change the contract to beginning of next year if we were to go with a different provider.
Okay. For your edification, we are in a pooled program. We have access to a large employer plan. So we're not considered to be a small business because of the number of employees. So we have access to a large employer plan. What could happen is, in regards to the healthcare plans, as healthcare costs are going up 25% year over year, that we may have to offer, because we're only paying a certain amount, a fixed amount to teachers, that we may have to actually reduce the plans, because because then the teacher would have to pay out of pocket if they were to pay, let's say, a PPO plan with no deductible, right? And so it could be very well that we have to offer maybe a health savings account or something like that in order to fit it into the 650. The savings would come from everything else. If we were to cut the 650, I believe that's the amount. And that's, that's not advisable at this point.
Okay.
Dr. Jones, I just have, do you have any other questions regarding the first 8 items, Joe?
Me? No more.
No, okay. Biggie, you and Dr. Jones have drafted.
Yes, so I don't have questions. Know this inside out. So from that perspective, no, I just want to mention something that Dr. Jones didn't mention. It's his contract, which means he has a 2-year contract, and any of those furloughs that he's offering here are voluntary, because he wouldn't need to offer anything. all the others, us, we have a 1-year contract, so our contracts are renewed for the next year, but his is already locked in. So everything that you're seeing here, he has agreed to, and I think that's a big step and a big sign from, like Carla said, from a perspective of the leader, because he didn't have to do that.
Thank you for sharing, Becky.
Well, I
Thank
mean,
you. Can I ask one question? You know, can I ask just one question? I'm having, is it just me, the internet connection here, the Wi-Fi connection? I'm having a hard time understanding. You're breaking up a little bit. What's the feedback from everybody else? Can you hear everybody properly, or is it just me?
It kind of goes in and out with different people. Like a couple minutes ago, I wasn't hearing you too well, Frank, when you thought it was Dr. Jones, but now Biggie was kind of in and out. It just kind of jumps around, unfortunately.
Right.
We just have to ask people
Okay,
to repeat
all right.
themselves if needed. Yeah. All right.
Am
Anybody
am
else?
I coming through okay?
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, right now, Dr. Jones, you're
Well,
coming in just fine.
But there were items where you were just basically, you know, frozen, or we couldn't hear you, or it was totally garbled. So I just,
That
you know, it's a
experience
little bit.
everyone?
Yep. Anyway, just let's go forward. And I have no further questions. I have just one comment and said, Dr. Jones, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next kind of grouping, which is an important, starting with line 10. These are about positions, some of which we've talked about already, and some of which are new. So I'm going to focus on the asterisk, but I'll reference the others as well. So the first one that's an asterisk, we were explicitly asked by the board to explore the elimination of one administrator. This, again, related to what Biggie was saying, we calculated this based on the 3 contracts that are still available. And so that's it could be $133,000 savings. We gave notice on this, and this is coming from admin, so I'm probably a biased comment, but we felt this was extremely unrealistic given the current workload the admin team is already taking on, and then there will be additional workload with less hours based on furloughs to achieve more work next year. So we did not put that into option 3, but that was something we were asked to look at and think about. Then 11 and 12 we've talked about before. These are the MYP position and then the PYP position that we've mentioned, and that was a part of both option 1 and option 2, and now it's on option 3. So no change there. Same thing with the line 13, the 8,000. That's savings that happen with reworking the way we do stipends for the coordinators, which will help, which help out our program and our support to administration. The next lines I want to describe, they relate to instructional aids and what we had presented at the last, what we presented in options 1 and option 2. If you'll recall, option 1 was elimination of all instructional aids. So there would be no instructional aids in classrooms. The only thing that would be made use of is outside of the classroom for recess and valet and lunch and student supervision. And that would be basically creating a new job description and bringing back folks that way. But it was in option 1, it was a complete removal, basically line item 15 and line item 16 together. we worked in option 3 to come up with a different solution, which was a request of the board, was to come up with something, maybe it's not all or nothing. Option 1 was all, option 2 was nothing. So this option 3, when it talks about instructional aids, is an in-between. And basically what it's saying is the elimination of service to students in the classroom at first grade. But it does not eliminate kindergarten and TK. We were able to find in the budget savings that were in there, which helped our cause. I'm going to ask Casey. She did a great job of explaining this at the staff meeting. So I'm going to put her on the spot. Can you explain how we found that that we think we can find one position based on attrition?
Yeah, so that line 14, the elimination of one full-time IA, when we had originally built the budget before we got to the budget cuts that were coming from the state, we had XED build us out a budget so that we were ready to go into this portion of the year. Included within that was were 4 full-time IA positions because we were going to have 3 kindergarten and 1 TK. However, from our current staff, we did not have all 4 of those positions filled because we have a couple staff members who are not returning next year for the classified positions. And so of those 4, only 3 were currently staffed. But after going back through and doing all the revisions, we realized we hadn't taken that additional unfilled position out of the original budget. And so when we found that, we realized that's an additional savings that we no longer need because we're only having 2 kinder and 1 TK class going into next year instead of 3 kinder and 1 TK.
So thank you, Casey. So what this meant from our perspective is for option 3, we wanted to give the board the look of what does it look like if there are no first grade level instructional aids, but only instructional aids in classrooms at TK and first grade. TK and kindergarten. And so that's what's presented here under option 3. I'm going to pause there for just a second. Are there any questions thus far on that issue?
Joe?
From me right now, no.
For me, it's just a clarification. So this is a position which was, I'm calling it now erroneously put in the budget, which we haven't eliminated, which we should have eliminated in option 2 already. So this is not an additional position we are eliminating, right? This is just an unfilled position we are not planning to use, and it is an attrition. It is through attrition. Is that correct, Casey?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just for clarification purposes. Thank you. That's all I have.
And then what does it say in the description there in the notes in H14 with change to only 3 TKK classes, reduction on 1 position through attrition in addition to the, what's that word after, in addition to the B2? What's BII?
I behavior intervention implementation specialist. That's the one-on-one for students.
Okay.
Which was also originally taken out of the budget.
Okay.
Because that also was through attrition of basically a student leaving.
Mm-hmm.
That we didn't need 4 BIIs anymore, but only 3.
Okay. Okay. So as it stands, we wouldn't actually have to like fire anybody, let them go. We just won't fill a current opening. Okay, good.
However, that's for line 14. Line 15, that is reflects 2 part-time positions that exist currently that wouldn't if that were approved. Just for clarification.
Do we know what grades those would affect, or were you going to get to that
It
next?
would affect students in first grade.
For the part-time, okay.
So in essence, as a clarification, there would be no IAs in first grade, neither full-time nor part-time.
Correct.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
And what, staff listed as 25% as a cut. You have here, if we just go through the evaluation, just can you walk us through you or Casey walk us through the impact of that elimination in regards to student learning and all the other criteria we have developed?
So I can say that the difference of what was what level of impact it's pretty similar across all of them total, but in terms of ones that the staff was asked about, this 25% relates to any kind of reduction of instructional aids was what the staff was asked about. And that was not a highly sought after thing. In other words, the lower that number, the more staff wanted to see this continue. There were a few things that were even lower than that, but this was a pretty low one.
So do we have I suppose that our staffing plan for first grade will reflect the change then if approved? So we have experienced teachers in first grade who can handle a larger classroom without IAs. Is that, I'm just fact checking the assumptions. I'm not passing judgment. I'm just asking questions.
I'm going to pass that one to Casey.
Yeah, so we have not finalized any placements for positions next year because we've been awaiting guidance from the board in terms of which route to go down. But if we were in a case where we were not having part-time IAs, then that would definitely be a factor in terms of who we have teaching in which placements. However, I will say that all of our staff are extremely qualified to teach without any additional support in the classroom. So I don't have any concerns about our teachers being able to support their students. But like I've said in previous meetings, having that additional support in there does go a very long way in terms of students with academic support, social, emotional, and also safety.
All right, may I move down?
Mm-hmm.
Frank, did we lose you?
No, I'm just on mute. You don't, sorry.
No worry.
Any other questions,
right,
Frank?
I'm going to move us forward.
Okay.
No further questions.
The next lines I want to group together. I've been grouping these together all along. What we refer to as our specials. And this is, I believe, what a lot of the comments were made at the beginning, the opening from the public were related. I know I've received quite a number of things, and they over a lot of different areas, but definitely this is an area that people are viewing as part of the core of our program. As such, it's not just that it's an important part of what we provide to students in the classroom. It's also a part of what we, I don't know how to say it, but what's a part of the ethos of the entire school and how we structure and organize all the things that go on behind the scenes with regard to teacher preparation and IB preparation and curriculum development and all the pieces that go on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis are able to happen because when teachers are not prepping for art or not prepping for PE, or when they have Spanish coming in, they're able to do different things, which include collegiality and working with each other. This is also a part of the philosophy that we were developing because of especially the MYP, and that we've chosen. You can kind of go about it two ways. You can contract out for things and have people come in from outside agencies, and potentially there's some cost savings to that, but at what cost? Outside agencies don't have a buy-in for our school, and outside agencies don't necessarily espouse the philosophy of our school, nor do they have a commitment to things beyond the time they walk onto campus and walk off of campus. That's very different than in programs such as these. We listed out savings that were based on things that we were able to remove potentially from the K-5 program, the elementary program. Yet in art and Spanish and PE, there are requirements that we have at middle school that we would be expecting a teacher to do. So these are savings that were based on if we had someone who came in for a third of a position, which is extremely unlikely to find a qualified credentialed teacher, nor to ask one of our teachers to come in dropping from a full-time position to a 1/3 position. As such, we did not put any of these three into option 3. So you can see that art is not listed. Spanish, although it was listed in option 1, is not listed in option 3. And PE under line 19 is not listed under option 3. Now, we were very specifically asked by the board to look at PE and to see what it would look like if there was a complete elimination and that was farmed out to an outside agency. So we did some thinking in that realm, and on line 20, we were able to find that yes, there was a little bit of savings. Instead of saving $55,000, you possibly could save $60,000. So $5,000 difference in savings. At what cost? And we looked at all that we would not be getting with not having a person connected to our system, to our entire school, both inside the classroom or the PE room, the PE area, and outside and beyond. We did not put that option in either. Any questions about specials?
Again, Joe, I'm going to start with you before I just make a comment.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, no questions, but just, general comment as a parent, absolutely would not want to see those things removed. Like we said, that's part of the ethos of the school, the program, and PE is so important for the health, mental health, just well-being of the children. Spanish is so important to start learning Spanish or any language at an early age, but particularly Spanish now. And also just on a strategic vision, we have to remember that when the economy isn't doing too well, a lot of people start leaving private schools. They start walking away from private schools because they can't afford the tuition. So they're going to look for the best public school they can find. So we still want our program intact. We still want to be the best public school option in town and attract them. So those specials, PE, art, Spanish, just totally out of the question to eliminate them or reduce them. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Biggie, Biggie and Dr. Jones, you had made the chance to comment on it. Biggie, you want to make a public comment about that as well? I want to give you the opportunity as part of the admin team and a part of the finance team.
Yeah, no other comment than has been made before. It's the core of our program. It's what IB requires of us. We have extraordinary teachers in all those areas, and it would be a shame if we let them go. They have built the program for so many years, and they know where the program is going and what we want to achieve when the middle school is fully extended to 8th grade. And we would lose all that institutional knowledge. We would lose all the compassion that they have for the students. There's no way that I could, with any reasoning, recommend to cut the specials out of our program.
Thank you. I would just echo that. For me, they're part of the core program. They're part of the marketing campaign. I think they give us a competitive advantage, from a marketing perspective. If we have an art, we have a PE program, when people look for alternatives. I echo 100% what Joe was saying. I'm in 100% with alignment as it relates to Biggie when it comes to in-house institutional knowledge. We should never, ever get rid of it. I was shocked by the request to cut PE, personally, because I'm just an active person myself. He appeared to be a rock star. He gets a gazillion endorsements from what I've seen from the community, 100% in support of what the admin team has suggested. This is part of the core, and I 100% endorse that movement. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to keep moving down. Line items 21 and 22. We've mentioned one of our goals is to have cuts as far away from the classroom as possible, which is why a lot of this is on the administrative level and reducing things and trying to shift things around to make that happen. We had a line item that was the office clerk position. We were asked to look at other operational ways, and we felt fairness across the board is a reduction of 1 hour. Just as we're reducing in administration and days, that the 1 hour reduction was one way to address the budget shortfall. It's perhaps not huge amounts of money, but it's huge amounts of money personally with people. So I'm not questioning that at all. This is a big piece. But that was a recommendation that from an organizational point of view, we can figure out a way to structure things with that level of reduction. Line 23. That was there before, so it doesn't have an asterisk. Line 24 was there before, doesn't have an asterisk, and didn't have savings that we could find. So, but that is line 23, the reduction in stipends was in all of the different options, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I'm gonna move down to the next grouping. These are contractual groupings. And one of these is a custodial staff that we contract with or subcontract with LAUSD for, and it's a large amount of money, but it's also given the COVID-19 concerns, we did not feel there was any way to make any reduction. In fact, we may have to consider some way of increasing at some point to be able to function on campus. But reduction at this point did not seem reasonable at all. So that one we did not put in option 3. Line 26, another line item that received a lot of information about from a whole lot of folks, both current and past families. And we initially had this down as in option one. We had come up with kind of a compromise in option two, which was a reduction of days. It was a 40-day contract previously, and we had reduced that down to 25 under option two. Option three, because we were asked to cut even more money, find more savings, we did return this back to the 7,200. Just a couple comments. This is not a question about the school's belief system in SEL, which we absolutely, it's one of the pillars and philosophical pieces of our school. This is about an additional contract that we've done for many years that is highly, highly valued. But given our situation, our staff had said this is something we can work on internally. So that was a driving factor in making this suggestion. It also was brought up very specifically at the board meeting that we should look at this again. So that's one that is in the suggestion for option three. The final one under outside contracts is one that is back to that philosophy of what we were trying to bring in-house versus having outside resources. And we chose the path of having our own internal resources be able to provide service to our middle years program. And we think it provides flexibility. We think it provides continuity of program. It provides, allows our staff to show off the expertise that they have in a variety of different ways. And it's not that we didn't like these vendors. We thought they were fantastic. Maybe someday we can get them back. But right now, we think this is the way to go, and it keeps these programs intact. If we go the opposite way and wipe out people and bring in contracts, we've wiped out those programs. So it goes back to the question we were just talking about. I'm going to keep going down to the bottom because we're getting down there, and then I'll ask for questions. So lines 28 through 31, I had mentioned before that this is about instructional materials that we don't get any benefit by cutting because we have to spend a certain amount in instructional materials. So these are all lumped together and there's no savings. Line 32 and line 33 are combined. This is a rethinking of the way we do copies. And we'd ask parents to help out with this, and we would also need to ask teachers to redo. We would be completely redoing the way we do copies. We would have limits. We would have we would expect that there are just far less copies made, and we can't immediately reduce the agreements, but as we're able to, we can reduce the agreements with the copy machine, possibly reducing the level of machine from a very large machine to a smaller one as the backup. There's different options we could do that. So that's where these numbers came in. It was in all three options, and it's still in here. In the same way, we would use Scholastic dollars, this $2,000 on line 34. This was in here before. Line 35. This was a line item that was in here, but we didn't have any savings listed. When asked to rethink, we thought that there was a way to get 7,500 if we of savings, if instead of asking for the 2 additional program or classrooms through an alt agreement, that we only ask for 1 additional class through an alt agreement. We don't know if we're going to get any, but if we do, we could say no, we just need 1, and we think then we can repurpose room 45 and shift things around and still make our program work. We won't have as much room for for specialized meetings and different things, but we think we could definitely, we could make it work. And so we put that savings in option 3.
Chris, maybe explain, it's a little confusing with the additional rooms. It's still clear we only got 21 rooms offered instead of the 23 we have right now. We were thinking that we wanted 2 additional rooms to have the same footprint as this year. That's why we put $15,000 in the budget in case we would receive an alt agreement that would put us back to the current footprint. Now, when we thought it, we thought, okay, maybe we can make do with 1 less classroom than we have right now. And that's why we took half of the additional cost of $15,000 that we put in there as buffer in case we would get the alt agreement. So now basically the alt agreement would hopefully only give us 1 additional room so that we can realize those savings.
Okay, moving forward. One thing, we had a line item on 36, and then we added a line item at 37. They're basically the same thing, except one is an alumni hybrid online, where half the time they're online and half the time they're on campus. We thought it's working right now with a virtual program, and we need to save money. And this is not a program that is with current students, and it's funded from outside. So it's funded by parents. So we thought this is a time we could just next year do it all online, see how it works, and we would save $5,400. So that's that one we felt we could put into option 3. There's also an asterisk on line 40, which we had in no other, in option 1 and option 2, we did not have this listed. But we're also getting a lot of information about how we would have to open up school under COVID-19. And we are not sure at all that even if we're open on campus, that we will be able to use our dispensers to dispense waters. We may have to rely on parents turning in or sending kids with water. So we put basically half the year with the assumption, and this is just an assumption, that a vaccine would be available and we would be back on more normal schedule by mid-year. And so this is an assumption, but we felt it was enough that we could put it in there. It's half the amount, and that was our recommendation for to put it in option 3.
Chris, could I ask a question real quick? The alumni classes, how many students participate in that, or how many families participate in that?
About between 40 and 50 each year.
40 and 50, okay. So if the parents really wanted it to be on campus or half on campus, would it be unreasonable to ask them to pitch in a little more money? Because if it's 40 to 50 cents, like about $100 a year per kid per rent, would that be unreasonable to ask them? If they wanted it.
You could ask them for more money in theory. However, this whole thing also has a logistical problem with it, because in order to get these classrooms after hours, we need to submit an application to LAUSD in June, early July. And we have no idea if we have the classrooms available, if campuses are open. So we might also just get to pay for the classrooms and not even be able to use them. So for the situation that we're facing, we thought it's an easier fix to start it and do it online for 1 year and see how it works, and not get into the situation to pay for not using it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Going down further, line 41, this is the same as we had put in all the other ones, refining the independent study process. And to achieve that in the budget, we increased our budget number or attendance expectation from 96% to 96.2%.
What was
Um,
what was the just for everyone's information, what was the attendance? Was
For
it
this
daily
gen-
average attendance up until?
96.7.
Wow. Okay. So that's
So,
achievable.
which is a healthy amount. We've actually at some point hit the 97 mark. Very tough to do, but so we still think we'll meet it, especially if we're doing this. The generally accepted budgeting number is 95%, but we've have such a solid attendance record over the years that we budgeted at 96 for the last couple of years.
Good. Okay.
Moving forward, renegotiating phone service, 3,600. That was a no-brainer. Biggie has been working on that with Del Techies, and we think that'll happen. So where does this bring us? Notice that we've looked at almost $1.4 million in potential savings. Now, keep in mind, that number is inflated because a lot of these are redundant. We can't do all of them. But lest anybody think we haven't been trying to come up with good ideas and come up with different ideas and out-of-the-box ideas, I feel like hooray for us on this one. We've really done our due diligence. What this option 3 provides for us is $476,000 and $650, which puts us right at the number we were trying to get to is 477. So this is a balanced budget under this. I at this point just put it out to the committee for discussion and.
Yeah, Joe, you wanna? I want to give you the first right to ask questions again, or the first right of refusal if you don't.
Sure. Yeah, just no, this is great. You've pretty much answered all my questions. But we should in terms of the independent study, we should come up with a plan just to kind of streamline independent study. I mean, if it's possible, somebody in admin or the admission, what was that position called? Admission and attendance clerk. If they could just email the family every day, like, hey, your child was absent. Here's a link to today's work, so all the teachers can just continue archiving their work on Google Drive, which I think they're doing anyways. Here's the link, and here's a kind of a pre-filled out independent study contract. You know, you fill out your name, kid's name, and all that. Just some way to streamline it, which will make it a lot easier. And just blast them, like, as soon as you take attendance and they're gone, blast them all in the morning. And I think that'll help.
Joe,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and pass this a bit to Casey because we're kind of thinking through what this might look like. If you could give us the 30-second overview, Casey.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to do it like today,
Yeah.
but just whatever.
Quick pitch is just to use a digital platform for independent studies. What has historically happened is it's paper copies that go back and forth. And so the efficiency with which we are giving out and then collecting the work is not as good as it could be. Now that everyone is familiar with these online platforms, that kind of removes those few steps of where the papers could get stuck in being returned back to the attendance and admissions officer.
And that'll make it a lot easier, especially if students are missing class just because of like traveling a long weekend or something else. So that's great. Yeah, I think that'll help a lot. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Biggie?
Nothing.
Okay, Dr. Jones, any additional comments? No.
Just in general, in terms of, is this an easy thing to do? List out all of these different kind of reductions and cuts and savings. It's not, but I do think we're giving the board an option now that is a balanced budget. That's a better option than option 1. It's going to be up to them to tell us exactly what to do and where. But until that happens, we're not going to be able to move forward with contracts. And we want to do that to be able to offer contracts for next year so people know where they stand. And so I'm hoping we can, if there's adjustments, let me know. But I do think we need to put something forward to the board and give them an option 3 as they asked for, which is a balanced budget with functionality.
Well, you haven't done anything additional to the revenue, I guess, I suppose, right? So the revenue stream stays as the revenue is has not changed.
We're still at a -10 revenue.
Right. So I think the only point is, you know, I would say is the SEL piece, SEL position as a contractor. I think you know, I've heard endorsements from certain parts of the community. I heard also statements that it is that the position, and I'm really talking about the position because I'm always very sensitive towards the people behind the position. I think that the position is not necessary, that the SEL philosophy is captured within the current structure without the SEL position being, the SEL outside consultant position being staffed or filled. I think if the board, I have no concept of judging what is right or wrong, but I think it is within the realm of feasibility to capture that position through additional revenue, if so requested by the board. That is the only comment in regards to the board, in regards to the suggested budget. I think for me personally, it makes sense that it addresses the core, as far as I could tell, but I can't tell about the SEL position. So that's my final comment on it. I always feel about the people behind the positions, and I think it's always hard to cut. So with that, I want to go through a last round. If there are any additional comments, is there a motion before we
still have we have
public? Yeah. But is there? Before we go into public comment, is there a motion to accept the additional, to present? What is it, Dr. Jones? Are we presenting an additional option between 2 and 3 to the board? What the board wants to do, or what are we exactly doing before we go into public comment? Before we issue the recommendation finally?
I think what we're going to be recommending is what the board asked for, which is to, beyond option 2, to show them an option,
yeah,
third option that is functional for a balanced budget. So it's presenting option 3 for their,
okay,
for their review.
Okay. So I'm not calling the vote, but I just want to get the motion on the agenda, on the table. So are you moving? Who's moving?
I move.
Biggie, are you?
Biggie moves. I second.
I'll second.
So then I'll close out the discussion. The discussion on the Finance Committee is closed out. We have a motion on the table. We now go into public comment before I call the vote on presenting option 2 and 3 to the board. Casey?
So just again, as a reminder to raise your hand, click participants, and then raise hand. And I'm assuming, Nicole, is this you? Go ahead. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, just did.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Lucking. This is my husband, Jens. We've been at the school for the last 5 years, and we've been active members in the Social Emotional Learning Committee. And we appreciate all the hard work you guys have put into coming up with all the different options, and we know that it hasn't been easy. But we just wanted to express our concerns over line 26 of not renewing the contract for Chris Massey Rhodes, who's been the consultant, who's worked really closely with the SEL committee over the years. And she's got significant history with the school. She's been there since the school started, and she believes deeply in our founding principles, and she goes above and beyond and does more hours than she actually bills for. I can attest to that because I've worked really closely with her. What I'm concerned about is that the school does not have a school psychologist or a counselor on staff. And I mean, as far as I know, bringing in somebody new, contracting with somebody to provide that service, that is quite expensive. And Chris, she has just a wealth of knowledge and experience and compassion and empathy, and she's just invaluable. And especially coming off of a time like this quarantine, and how just anxiety is just running rampant, not only for the grown-ups, but for the children as well. And I'm concerned that placing all of, just eliminating Chris and then having the teachers handle everything on their own, I just feel like it's putting too much on their plates. And having somebody like her who has the experience and knows the school and has relationships with the families and the kids and the teachers. I just think she's going to be needed now more than ever, coming off of this quarantine, whenever we are able to come back to school. And it just seems like a really terrible time to make that elimination. That's all I had to say.
Right. At the same time, we do understand that it's a very tight budget, and with a 10% cut in funding, it must be really, really difficult. And we just went through the whole meeting. We attended the entire meeting and looked through every single line item. So we do understand that this is very difficult. But as Nicole said, we feel very strongly about Chris Massey Rhodes' involvement in the school, and that she's done an amazing job. And like Nicole says, she probably puts in 2 to 3 times as much time into it, and compared to what she gets paid for. So
without
we just
complaint,
wanted to,
she loves her work, and she believes in it, as we all do. I know you guys do too. The social emotional piece is huge.
Thank you.
Beacon?
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to thank you guys for doing a tremendous job. I think the board gave you a huge task to bring the budget into balance, and you did really go and look under every nook and cranny. Dr. Jones, hats off to you. I think you're showing real leadership here. And Biggie, thank you for bringing that to light so we can thank you personally. Of course, you know, I feel the same as Jens and Nicole about Chris Massey Rhodes, so I won't speak more to that. I just want to publicly acknowledge you guys.
And it looks like at this time there is no further public comment.
Again, I would like to thank the public for their engagement and for the public comment. It's appreciated, and it's noted and acknowledged, and it's valued. And these decisions regarding any teacher, any position, any person behind it are very difficult. And I think we're at that point where we can call the vote for the motion. I'll do the round call. Dr. Jones?
Aye.
Biggie?
Sorry, aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And Frank, myself, is aye too. Thereby the motion for recommendation of bringing option 2 and 3 forward to the board for final discussion and deliberation and decision on what is it, June 8th? Is accepted. We will, Dr. Jones will present that plan with my support, with some lead-in language or lead-in comments from myself. And what is then next on the agenda?
only next steps or follow-up meetings, which I guess we don't need because we don't need more discussion, and then adjournment.
Okay. Any next steps? Any new business, Joe? I just want to go through the round.
No, nothing for me.
Dr. Jones, you want to comment on again on the schedule of making of decisions for the next steps?
Sure. Just that we'll take this now to the board. What I'm hoping is the board will make a final determination that we can build our budget on. If they can approve the budget outright, they can do that. If they make a minor adjustment, we can do that if we understand what it is and approve the budget. But if there's wholesale changes of things in and out, this is far too complex a budget. We would have to then put that forward at a following meeting for the board. So just so we're clear, you know, we have to be very clear as to what budget we're approving for the board, and we'll present an updated budget based on option 3 and present that, and then any adjustments would be from that, because that's what the board was asked us for, was for a balanced
Right.
budget with option
Right.
3. We'll use that as the basis, and we would have to make any adjustments from there.
Right.
Final deliberation.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So let's let's be prepared, all of us, in the presentation, so that we can come to a resolution and can issue contracts for teachers and move forward. And with that, do I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting at 5:30?
I move.
Who is second?
I'll second.
Okay. I'll do the roll call. Dr. Jones?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Biggie?
Aye.
Frank, aye. Thank you for your participation again. The meeting is adjourned at 5:32.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.